That is me, the good old witch. I'm around. I'm here. I'm living. It's good. What is good, gamers? How are we feeling today? Hey, I got things to talk about. I got a few things to talk about. In fact. Hey, Ruz, how we doing? Lindis, good to see you. Waves, hello. Oh, whoa. Yeah, I got some shit to talk about. Some stuff maybe to be excited for, other stuff more just me shit, but a lot of stuff that I want to talk about a little bit with people who exist. I'm gonna go to this screen, hopefully. Yeah, the music still works. Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. How are we all feeling today? Yeah, but so hey, fellas. Hello, hello, waves, hello, waves, hello. Yeah, I got some cool things to talk about. I hope. Not really. Maybe. There are not many cool things. It's mostly just talking about like upcoming Witch Wars and shit. We're not gonna worry about that though. We're not gonna worry about that though. Huh? We're all gonna agree. Not gonna worry about though. Are we all just waving? Is that what we do? We're just hitting it with the O slashes. Goddamn. That's pretty funny though. All right. Hey. Did you know that we have a BlazBlue tournament that exists? No, it's fucking crashing. God damn it. Why is my model crashing? No! It's happening so early. I'm stunned. I got fucking stunned. Blood is flabbergasted. What is wrong with him? Oh, good lord. Good heavens. By the 9, I'm tweaking. See, that's kind of concerning, Crimson, by the fact that you think that that's, you know, we're not going to worry about it, but that's a little concerning. That's all I'll say. I'd say, you know, consider the following. What? Alright, we're back, hopefully. Okay, so... Alright, we got a Witch Wars. We got a Witch Wars coming up. Huh? Who would have guessed? Let me turn down No More Heroes just a little bit. Yeah, we got a fucking Witch Wars coming up. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. We're not going to worry about that. And we got quite a number of people. We got around 33 entrants. We had 35. Some people had to drop out, but we got some people. We got a lot of really interesting people. First off, Azor. Azor's back, number 2 finisher. A decent amount of times. Glad to see them around. Garnax. We actually didn't get to see Garnax a little bit, but I have seen him around on the YouTube space every now and again. I'm excited to see that a little bit. I got Pink. You know, we all know Pink. Mr. Kevin Blast himself, real life Bang Shishigami. He's real? What the hell? Who would have guessed that real life Bang Shishigami would be joining our tournament? We got some new people as well. Let's see if I remember who they were. Demopan, I don't believe has done a BlazBlue yet. I'm not sure. I know they were the Potemkin from the beginner tournament who pulled off some crazy reads that were really fucking cool. So I kind of want to be able to see a little bit of their matches. I think that'll be fun. Retro Red, my personal goat. We got the fucking Red Void himself. Based Hakumen player. I'm excited to see that. It's always fun watching his Hakumen. I think he's a very interesting Hakumen to watch. Prime Zealot, they've also done very well historically in the past. Nillian Gray. Aimer, how you doing? Nillian Gray is a Kagura player who posts clips every once in a while. I've seen a few of their stuff floating around in the YouTube space, so I'm excited to see how they're doing. And of course, we cannot overlook the big demon in the room, which is the good old Sheldon Senpai Uwu. The fact that he put Uwu in his name for the bracket fills me with insurmountable dread and awe. I think is the best way of putting it. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I may have to do something kind of drastic if he wins this one again. He has recently revealed to me. I knew he was good, but I didn't know how good Sheldon was. Sheldon recently revealed to me that I think he's like the number 6 Terumi and the number like 11th Hazama, I think, if I remember correctly. Some like whack shit like that. He was just actually cracked with it. And I was like, oh, that's... Why are you here? But, you know, c'est la vie is what it is. If he wins this one, I might have to put him on hold for probably a month. Just because I do want to flesh out the winners. I want to do something cool by the end of the year where I have like a sort of like a winner's invitational, if that makes sense. I think that would be really fun to do. But I would need enough winners to do that, and I kind of need them to show up. So I may have to put Sheldon on hold for a little bit here and there. Hello, how you doing, Kairu? We're gonna see how that goes. But yeah, so far this bracket looks a lot of fun. Lots of cool returners, lots of cool new people. This looks like a pretty fun bracket to be being able to watch. The best part is, too, about this bracket, we have a pretty full bracket, about a 32-man bracket. But the best part about this one is I decided to move it a little earlier, so I'm going to start the stream a little earlier, which means I actually get to stream some matches for you all from pools. So you're not just watching Sheldon all the time. We're going to be able to watch a few pool matches, which is going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm getting Chris back for commentary. I really like Chris on the commentary. I don't know how you guys feel about him, but he's super fun to work with. He's just very chill with it. I think he's very funny. Tournament is Saturday. No, it is on Saturday, April 1st. It is on Saturday. Yeah, this is in a few days. But yeah, so we're going to be able to watch some pools, which I think is going to be super fun. No, actually, Envy, real shit, I thought today was Friday too. I was at work. And I was like, well, guess I'll see you all fucking, like, Monday. And they're like, what are you talking about? You're coming in tomorrow. And I was like, huh? Huh? It was so bad. I'm losing my sense on time very quickly. But yeah, no, this bracket looks a lot of fun. There's going to be a few... I don't want to call them upsets, but there's going to be a few people who... are not going to be the happiest about how this bracket is shaping up to be. Awesome Sack and Retro Red are going to be first. And they played in top 8 last time, which is going to be very interesting seeing them go up so early. Sheldon's early matches are going to... Oh, they're not going to have him run to Azor at all. Interesting. So yeah, we're going to see what the people in this top bracket are going to be able to pull out. We have a few hitters here. Lindis is a big hitter. We love Lindis. Lindis is very cool. Friend of stream. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of time zone nonsense that happens. It's because Rally Lore, giving you all Rally Lore in exactly like 3 seconds. I live in Arizona. Now, you may not think that's weird, but here's the problem. Arizona doesn't believe in daylight savings time. Because they don't believe in daylight savings time, I am forced to, as a human, I'm still on Mountain Standard Time, while the rest of the country has advanced to like Mountain Daylight Time, or Pacific Daylight Time, or Central Daylight Time, which means my hour has shifted apart from the rest of the world. So that means I am now Before, I was just Mountain Standard Time. It was, just perfectly fell in line with everyone else. Now I'm the same time as Pacific Time, which is now 2 hours behind Central Time, which really fucks me up whenever I'm trying to communicate with someone what time it is, because I'll be like, oh yeah, show up at like 8, right? 8 Mountain Standard Time. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And then we're always off by an hour because fucking Arizona's a piece of shit. Listen, I'm all for getting rid of daylight savings. I think it's incredibly cringe. Here's the issue. Either all of us does it or none of us does it. Because I can't keep doing this for much longer. I'm going to tell you right now. All right. So, fellas, folks. Another cool thing that I will be announcing. Due to unforeseen circumstances, my good old D&D group that happened on Monday was unfortunately unable to continue. Is what it is. But I do have something waiting in the wings. I talked about this a little bit before. And so, I'm going to talk about it now. Ooh, who would have guessed? There's a new game. A new game of Dungeons & Dragons will take place. And this one's going to be streamed to you all. That's right. You! It's going to feature such internet funnymen as Salty Boy, Chris Bunchanumbers, Rickon is here. Well, he will be here. He's just Rickon right now. And Shane Velshane, if you from my co-host from the little part that I'm doing in the Fate Grand Order dub on Red Muffler Man's channel. So yeah, we're gonna stream some D&D on Mondays, starting at I think it's 5 Pacific time is what we agreed on, which is gonna be pretty interesting. I've been DMing for like 6 years, I think, at this point, and I have a homebrew world that has seen over 15 groups of players run campaigns through it. It's gonna be interesting. I hope you all enjoy it. I'm I'm so hyped. Oh, you don't even understand. I'm very excited to run this. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I hope you all are gonna be able to enjoy it. These people are very funny. I respect all of them. We're gonna hold a session 0 this Monday, which is gonna be pretty fun. I hope, maybe, points fingers, where we'll discuss kind of the world and their characters and what we want to do. So part of what I wanted to do today is gush. I'm going to gush to all of you, just from my chest, because we're going to be talking about my homebrew world. That's right, baby. I want to talk about the setting of which I will be running a D&D campaign here in a little bit. You may find this cringe. You may not. You may think this is base and epic and love to hear about it. The best part is that you don't get the choice. I'm going to do it regardless. Oh, good lord. All right, let me open up my little software that I use for maps here. Huh? How do we say to that, huh? We open up a little software. We do a little map tooling. That's what it's called, map tools. Please talk about the Wendigo curse. I can talk a little bit about the undead. The undead can play a little part in this. The Wendigo curse is funny. Who's my favorite character in your D&D campaign? Dog. Well, let me see if I have the map that has all my previous players on it. There's so many players that I could talk about who I could just gush about endlessly for a while. Ones that come to mind, Wealth. He's the tiefling bard who became a king of hell. Love Wealth. He's amazing. Love him so much. Kiss his fingers. There's... Oh, fuck. There's Lenorm. Lenorm was a kobold paladin who eventually became a full-on silver dragon, which was really cool. Fuck. Oh, Kai the Radiant. An Azamar protector. Or no, was he a protector? I think he was a scourge or a protector. Who was a fallen angel who had a messy falling out with the goddess of new beginnings. and because of this divorce was sent to Earth as punishment, which is pretty funny. There's so much really funny characters that exist in this world, and talking about them is, oh, good lord. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of characters who I just love endlessly, and I want to talk about them a little bit. God damn, the No More Heroes soundtrack is fucking bass as hell. Alright, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit for your perspective. We're gonna go to world map. There it is. Alright, folks. Are you guys ready? It's a banging tune. Alright. Ooh, here we go. Here we go. We're here. Woo! Alright, welcome. Welcome. This is the setup I'm gonna be using. It's called Map Tools. It's a free-to-use map thing. Self-hosted server. Does a lot of shit, and I'm a big fan of it. It's a little frustrating to use, but I think it is probably the tool that I'm most comfortable with. And this is my world map that exists. I'm going to delete these characters. We'll talk about them in a moment. But yeah, this is the world map that exists that these characters will be playing on. To be fair, or should I say to enlighten you, this is not the only continent to exist on this world. There are, I think, a total of around 3 major land masses in the world. This is one of them, and then there are a few others. This is the one that they're going to be playing on, since all the other continents have stuff going on in them, and so this is kind of a place where they get to explore and have some fun. This is the land of Barosia. Ooh. Barosia is a land dedicated to song. Their magic is often flavored through the songs of spirits, and ancient chants is the idea. Words and song have power. As such, bards are actually a very respected class throughout the lands, as they hold the songs of creation, or the songs that provide the magic for the world. As such, there are something known as the 6 harmonies, which are these little gates over here. Each of the major countries of the world has one of these harmonies, or these singers' gates, that sort of coalesce together over here in the Silent Oasis. It is a world that is connected to each other, but because of that has grown further apart. Mainly, could I get a coffee in Barosia? Yeah, we'll talk about where that will be, which is down here in Faring. Now, so typically the world is pretty brought together by the Singers' Gates, and they're able to communicate here. Unfortunately, this country over here had to mess everything up. The good old Yarning Empire. You see, Yarning, as a country, used to establish all 3 of these countries. Yarning, Zarakoshi, and Kyrium. It used to rule over this entire area. It used to be its domain. A small problem occurred, which is a secession went wrong, and one of the princes believed themselves to be the next heir, while another prince was like, no, I'm the heir, you dummy. And that caused a split in the kingdom, which created the Holy Domain of Zarakoshi, and the Yarning Empire now split in half. The Holy Domain of Zarakoshi became a religious theocracy dedicated to the gods of holy. So these are like the holy gods of like charity and goodwill and like light, right? These are like the good gods, and they formed this very strict theocracy here. This drove a lot of people who were isolated on this island, the Isle of Kyrium, to grow distasteful of Zarakoshi, because while they were technically in the borders of Zarakoshi, they weren't a fan of the theocratic turn that Zarakoshi took, and as such, split off further, and then wanted to spite Zarakoshi further because they're a bunch of petty bastards, and started worshipping devils to such a degree that portals to hell open up there every once in a while, and no one can do anything about them. Kyrium became a lawless land of demons and cowboys who kind of roam the land and do their own justice where they can. gangs of devils form to sort of, you know, harvest souls, do whatever devils do, and then there are just like cowboys who hunt them down. Kyrium is a very fun place over here. Yarning is your typical La Generica fantasy sort of setting. It is knights and queens and kings and squires and like all that good like medieval basic fantasy stuff exists here in Yarning, where it's split between a king and two separate areas, all sort of like that. The problem was that when Yarning broke up, their Singer's Gate, now fell into major dispute of who owns it. You know, because technically it should be Yarning, but technically it's in Zarakoshi's border. So there's kind of like this major problem where, which one of us is legit? And so Yarning and Zarakoshi have been at war for a while, with Kyrium kind of being a third party who supplies weapons and magic to either sides through devil contracts. So Kyrium's this like third-party weapons dealer who's just profiting off the war, and Yarning and Zarakoshi have been bickering for like this entire time, which is a very fun dynamic that's going on here. Just to the east of them, or sorry, should I say to the west, we have Dunar. Dunar is a massive desert. Specifically, it is a magical desert that was scorched and burnt because there was a small problem where, how do I put this? Magic burned the ground during an ancient war, and as such turned the environment to sand. A lot of druids were a little upset by this, and so they're like, well, what can we do to fix this place? And so they established 3 major cities here in the pockets of the desert, and are beginning their own efforts to reconstruct the land to become inhabitable once more. So you have these 3 like druid circles who are trying to fix the desert. Another bonus, or maybe downside, of the magic sand is that it often buries or resurfaces ancient ruins. Long lost cities and kingdoms disappear and appear in the sand at any given moment, depending on the shifting sands that exist. As such, the place, while full of druids, is also full of bounty hunters who are excavating ruins and trying to mark their own territory and just try to find all this hidden knowledge. So it's this treasure hunting capital that is also very druidic in nature. It's this little interesting dynamic they got going here in Dunar. Down here, we have the Tribes of Myheal. So, in the Tribes of Myheal, Myheal isn't like a recognized country by the UN, to put it simply. Myheal has, I believe, 9 major tribes that exist, and these are the animal folk who exist in this world. The animal folk were once people who worshipped great beasts of legend and began taking on their characteristics. Like there was a group who worshipped the Great Phoenix and eventually became Aarakocra, or bird people, because they just took on the forms of their great beasts while still remaining somewhat human. Tabaxi, same deal, humans who eventually over time evolved to match things. It is the rule that every setting must have a furry. It just kind of is what it is. But yeah. So that's kind of the Tribes of Myheal. There's a bunch of stuff that goes on here. Yeah. Another funny thing about Myheal, which I haven't really been able to play with, but it's very funny. A tribe of centaur exists here, and they worship Sleipnir, which is the 8-legged horse of Odin. And the best part about Sleipnir is he's not sleeping like the other beasts. He's just running around and causing problems. He is just too fast and is tearing up the forest. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm not going to worry about if I am or not later. Are the druids Game of Throning? What a great question. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out one now. On the outside, they're very peaceful. They're just trying to rebuild nature. So this is the Faring, or the Faring Silver Lords rule over here, but this is the Kingdom of Faring. So Faring is a little interesting. So over here in Dunar, the magic sand was created by, an ancient magical war. The problem is Faring has the same problem, but they don't know how it happened. But portals to other dimensions just kind of show up every once in a while. Hey, Boats, this is me explaining the D&D setting that I'm running a game in starting Mondays, which is going to be fun. Haha, points fingers. Anyways, yeah, so this is the land. This is the lad. So portals to other dimensions just kind of show up and random shit happens. It is a known occurrence and problem that children get abducted by otherworldly beings at complete random, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. They're kind of just helpless to the fact that a portal can open up and just snatch your child. The best part is, it is known that children who do go missing are often found, just scattered throughout the world and planarly enhanced by being gifted magical powers from other dimensions. The best way to describe it was how Hottie described it was, this is where Family Guy cutaway gags happen, and you're just stuck in them. The other thing that exists in this bay is over here, the Pawning Isles. The Pawning Isles are a subsect of 64 islands that exist in this giant archipelago. Each of the small islands or archipelagos have a little magical core to them that sort of influence the very nature of them. The only issue is that whenever I have described this phenomenon to people, I have often heard the phrase, the One Piece. The One Piece is real. And I didn't mean it to turn out like that. Until I eventually decided, fuck it. That is exactly what I mean. So this is the One Piece Islands. It is a bunch of isolated islands that each have their own unique rules, and there are just pirates everywhere. Pirates existed before here, but now they're like actually here. So like there are giant boat cities or just cities that are floating in the water, just going around to the different archipelagos. There are like pirate guilds and shit. It's One Piece. This is One Piece. You're looking at One Piece right now in the Pawning Isles. Once again, didn't mean for it to turn out like that, but at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? The last country we haven't talked about is over here in Freygenheim. Freygenheim is the far north of Barovia, and it is technically split up into two distinct camps, though it's technically one country, and we'll talk about why that is. Over here in Kalanarian is one of the only established cities in Barovia, or in Freygenheim, I should say. Kalanarian is the home to the dwarves and the dragonborn. The dwarves are rather silly folk. They are still, mining away at the earth, seeking the treasures that lie deep within. But they're doing it for a slightly different reason. The dragonborn and dwarves have come together to agree that while the dragons are sleeping now, they will one day return. And because they one day will return, they're going to want their massive piles of gold to be delivered to them. So basically, the dwarves and dragonborn are working together to amass as much wealth as they can so that they can offer it as an offering to the dragon gods so that when they do return one day, they will be spared, is the general consensus of people living at Kalanarian. So this is where like draconic paladins exist, people who sort of worship the dragons and gain power from them. But it's also the area where dwarves exist, and dwarves are crazy merchants in this setting. They just have trade routes and just excellent negotiating skills. They're fucking crazy with it. And as such, they're able to amass this crazy amounts of wealth, both from mining the ores of the earth, as well as being able to just be like one of the major trading networks in Barovia. Pretty interesting, I think, personally. Over here on the right, this area isn't named for a good reason. The area on the right is mostly known as the Alone North. The Alone North is a series of outlying villages and people who have their own customs who don't interact well with each other. Typically, this is devolved into about 4 or 5 major clans who exist, where these small outlying villages sort of govern by themselves, but they pay homage to one of the greater clans and sort of not and work with them, I think is the best way of putting it. These 4 major clans often act like, I want to say barbarians is the wrong word, but warlords is probably the better idea, where it's like 4 shoguns, basically, is the best way of putting it, who just kind of fight for territory, and these outlying villages are their own sort of thing, who just kind of get conquered every once in a while, but are okay with it. Another thing about the Alone North over here is that this is where the Rangers Association occurs. The Rangers Association is a collection of people with the strict desire to find the truth, or to find what is missing. And as such, they have a bunch of people who scour the world looking for lost artifacts and truth, lost secrets, as well as searching for lost things, often becoming treasure hunters. The Rangers Association also acts as a pseudo police force for the Alone North, where whenever like a clan or a shogun isn't directly involved, they kind of step in and are kind of like lone sheriffs in these little outlying parts. So that's pretty cool. Now, that's been all of it. You may be asking yourself, oh, really, you dumb bitch, you forgot about the Silent Oasis over here. And I didn't. The Silent Oasis is a strange land where the great shamans live. The shamans who know the songs of creation exist here. And as such, they are constantly having their minds befuddled by understanding too much. They know too much about the worlds of creation and have kind of isolated themselves here. Well, this was supposed to be a place where the countries of the world can gather and meet to communicate with each other. Due to the works of the great shamans, they kind of fucked the place, and now it's a little cursed because they brought a lot of bad mojo jojo here by understanding the eldritch truth a little bit. The Silent Oasis, while useful for some people to travel quickly between the countries and worlds, is not a great place to stay, as the oncoming madness oftentimes can affect you more than you would like to believe. So there's that. And with that, that is the setting of which I will be running this campaign. I think it's pretty interesting. I have been working on this world. The world's name is Somnia Terrace, or the Land of Dreams is the translation for that, Somnia Terrace. Somnia Terrace is a world I've been working on since I was technically 14. I started running people when I was 16, and I've been running for like the past 6 years is the idea. It is a wonderful, wonderful little passion project that I've spent a lot of time on. And now I got to share it with you people, which maybe is interesting. Maybe it's not. Who knows? We're going to find out soon on Monday. Hopefully you all will kind of stop by and check it out. Because, I would like to share this world off to people, as well as sharing the game of D&D to people. D&D is a very, I don't want to say sacred, but it's a very special game to me. It has brought a lot of people in my life together, and has formed very good, lasting friendships. I'm going to there's a person I met a few years ago who one of my good friends invited to a D&D session, and they've been with us ever since. I'm invited to their wedding, and that's happening on Saturday. So it's, this game is very special to me, and I hope that you all enjoy. But yeah, that's kind of what exists in the world, and I love it. I love it. It's so cool. But yeah, there's also some players that exist in this world. I don't know how many of them you actually want to see. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The world's fucked. The world is a fuck. Let's just say that, all right? The world is a fuck. Let me see if I can find what's going on. This is a core world? Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. There is some very obvious inspiration to things that you may have caught on. One of them was not meant to be One Piece, but alas, it happened. I did write this while I was, in my developmental years. There's a lot of things that influence here. It's my other favorite VTuber. There are others? What? No! Alright. Neko score? Yeah, okay. You know what? That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. You know what? That's valid. The One Piece. The One Piece is inevitable. But yeah, you guys want to meet some of the previous characters who existed in this world? Yay or nay? Because I got a few that I want to talk about. Some of them are funny. The One Price. Alright. So this is a character who used to exist. I had a good friend. We're going to call him Carter. Carter is so fucking awful and I hate him. Carter didn't play with us for long. He's still one of my good friends, but he didn't play with us for long. But the time that he existed, he wrote this elven rogue, right? This assassin, who had what he described as a very manly face, but had a very, yes, sir. Please, sir. If you could not just step me aside, sir. Sort of like this little orphan boy, little English orphan boy voice, which was very funny whenever it came up. But Minton LaCroix was his name. LaCroix in reference to the drink. I fucking hate him for that. I hate LaCroix. I hate LaCroix. Rah! Minton LaCroix invalidated. Back when I was still learning how to run the system, I made some bosses that were bad. Bad in the game sense, right? Like, they weren't, like, impossible to beat. They were just not poorly made, or they were not well crafted, and often didn't do what I wanted them to do. Yes, this is D&D. And as such, Minton, the idea of the fight was that there was a very weak magician in the back who was turning books into, like, animals, right? He could summon these book familiars, and he would turn them into these, like, giant animals, and they would fight the party. And he would just be in the back controlling these animals, and they had to deal with them before they could get to him. Was the intention for this fight, right? That was the idea. Minton looked at me in the eye, dead in the eye, and said, sir, I'd like to use my bonus action to disengage. And I was like, huh? Okay, sure. I would then like to dash. And he, like, moved 30 feet. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And he's like, the wizard hasn't gone yet. Is that correct? And I was like, yes, Minton, that is correct. And he's like, oh, perfect. I would like to stab him with my sword. And I was like, all right, sure, go for it. Haha, how much damage is this going to be? And he's like, well, since I have the assassinate feature, it's an automatic, or I gotta add, like, what is it, like 60, like 10d6 or something shit like that? Like some crazy dice amount. And I was like, huh? And I was like, okay, this probably won't kill him, but, like, it'll be close. Like, uh-oh. And then he's like, oh, DM, I got a nat 20. And I was like, huh? This motherfucker rolled, I think, like, maybe, like, 95 damage and, like, a single strike. And just instantly, boop, just killed this wizard. Just instantly. And I was like, oh. And then he never played again. That was his last session. Just one taps my boss and never played again. Oh, God, I love Carter. But Minton LaCroix is just a bitch, and I hate him. Oh, God. The feelings, once again, have welled up inside of me. My distaste for Minton LaCroix. Who else is there that I want to talk about? Oh! Let's talk about these guys. So, let's talk about Lenorm! Where is he? There he is! Yeah, Lenorm! Lenorm! Okay, so Lenorm originally was a kobold. He was just a standard red kobold who was just a happy little fella, who watched his entire tribe die in a blaze of glory and covered his body in the ashes of dead kobolds, a la Metal Gear Solid. Something like that, right? And you're like, okay, wild start as a level 1 character, but sure. So he sets himself out on an adventure to prove that kobolds are strong enough to exist in this world of people who would like to prey upon them. And you're like, that's awesome. Lenorm sucked. His early build was so bad that he would constantly get kicked around accidentally. And I didn't mean to. I tried to balance stuff for him, and I was constantly surprised by how bad Lenorm's early build was. Until he got to later levels, when he actually became like this really competent character and he started building stuff. Eventually, he evolved, a la Pokemon almost. He turned into a Dragonborn, and you're like, oh, that's cool. So he continued on as a Dragonborn, this Dragonborn Paladin, who is now like picking up pace, and he was like kind of the lead front of the party. And people were like, holy shit, you can do this. Lenorm, you're like a real dragon. And he's like, no, I'm a kobold. The entire time. And so these people would approach this like huge Dragonborn and be like, yo, you're crazy. And he's like, no, I'm just a little kobold doing the best I can. Salutes. Eventually, Lenorm got the approval of one of the sleeping dragon, one of the silver dragons, and became a silver half dragon and a prophet of one of the great dragon lords, creating a society. What the fuck is this? Anyways, creating one of a reborn city of dragons where they could worship the dragons, which was the basis for Kalinarian, which is pretty funny. Lenorm's a good boy. He is, as someone would describe him, a golden retriever character, and I love him very much. The only problem is he's a bitch. Now, this next character I'm going to show to you has been the saddest and most frustrating character I've ever had to run for, maybe ever in my entire life. And that is Jesilaris Dracus. Now, there's something I have to do, because I have to bully my friend who got this art commissioned for his character, good old Jesilaris. As you can see, the 2 katanas he has on his belt are actually strapped in by the handle, because the artist who drew this for him, I guess, didn't know how swords worked, and that's not how you like holster a blade on a belt. And so those things are slipping right off, and I have to make fun of him every time since he couldn't explain how swords worked on a fucking belt to an artist, which I think is pretty funny. Good old Jesilaris got sent to prison because he dueled a noble and lost, right? He was like this duelist who went around and was gaining fame for himself. He dueled this noble, and the noble got so butthurt that he sent him to super mega jail, where he ran into his party. Jesilaris was always a competent character. He was the samurai fighter. He did everything he was supposed to. Like, he was very competent in combat and roleplay. He was very forward, you know, he was always willing to accept a challenge. He's this duelist. But the problem was, for whatever reason, during this campaign specifically, this player, I've had him multiple times as a player, but for whatever reason, this specific campaign, he was the most unlucky person I have ever seen in my life. Could not land a hit, could not make a saving throw, could not dodge a trap. Every single time, he just rolled so poorly until the very end of the campaign. Right? It's closing up. They are fighting this giant, and he is like so ready. He's been beaten down this entire time, when all of a sudden, for whatever reason, this man starts rolling nothing but like 15s and higher the entire night. His damage die values are fucking insane. He is like outsmarting me with how he's positioning himself and how he's messing with the environment. For whatever reason, this one time just became one of the most insane, just like damage dealing, characters that never existed before. The entire campaign, he rolled like shit. And for whatever reason, this like end of session, this one little like mini arc at the end of the like campaign, that was the time where he just suddenly started rolling like a god. And I love just Lars for this. He got his hero moment. He got it nice and good. Love just Lars. Good man. What are some other funny characters who exist? Let's talk about Barovia characters we wanted to. There are some characters that have existed in Barovia already. Some characters have existed in here. Jeez Louise. I'm a little sick. I'm sorry to announce that to you all, but I am a little sick. Oh boy. We're going to talk about Julius, if you don't mind. Good old Julius. Good old 240p Pinterest art Julius. Julius is a bard. Specifically, he is a, I think he's a glamour bard. Now, glamour bards are supposed to be these very fashionable, very outgoing bards who distract and wow you with these magic tricks, right? They're these like very flamboyant bards who are very easygoing and can wow a crowd with their magics. Julius took that inspiration and said, ah, wiggles fingers, I know what I must do. And whenever we went to session, whenever he gave inspiration to another character, which is the main trait of the bard, whenever he gave inspiration to another player, he would say some outlandish conspiracy theory that he would just make up on the fly. Like, he would be like, oh, here's a D8. By the way, did you know that birds aren't real? Oh, here's a D8. By the way, did you know that the government is hiding El Dorado from us? And, like, you could not trust him alone with, like, any important, like, social situation, because he would always try to find some way to, like, talk about some random, like, conspiracy theory that existed in just whatever in this world. He would just talk about some random, like, political thing that happened in, like, a different campaign that he knew about, and would just be like, you know what actually happened there? Yeah, crazy uncle type beat. The reason Julius was really funny was because his specific campaign was dealing with a Zerakoshi invasion into Kyrium. Julius didn't necessarily get along with Zerakoshi, but knew Zerakoshi was hiding something, and he was right. The main plot of the campaign was that a group of soldiers were defecting from Zerakoshi because they learned some twisted things were happening in Kyrium that they weren't okay with. And so they sort of defected and were trying to figure out this military conspiracy. Julius, on more than one occasion, would offhandedly say something that would later prove to be what was actually happening in the campaign. Just randomly Apollo descending from the heavens and giving him prophecy. Would just be like, you know what? I know what's happening here. And would just say something completely off the cuff and would be correct. Because, you know, it's a conspiracy campaign. So, of course, some weird shit's gonna be happening. And whenever that happened, I had to physically, like, take a step back, breathe, and be like, he's just messing around. He doesn't know, obviously. And whenever we got to the point where they would reveal that they knew, or that they were right about something, because he recorded all the conspiracies he talked about, whenever he did and was right about something, he'd be like, oh, really? Gotcha. And I was like, shut up, please. Please. Julius was a bitch, and I hate him, but he's so funny. Oh god, Julius is one of my favorite characters to run for. He's a funny man. He is la creatura. La creatura personified. He's played. He might have been. Don't tell Dandel I said that, though. He'd get too big of a head. Okay. I'm going to talk about... So, before I talked about characters who I thought were really funny, who had, like, some sort of really compelling arcs, but, like, kind of, for the most part, just kind of had some funny things go about them. This is my favorite... One of my favorite character stories that ever existed in a campaign that happened before. This is Teindir. Teindir, or Taindir, or Taindir, whatever. Teindir was your average kid. Just your average fella, right? Who's had his village destroyed by strange monsters, and the only thing that was left of his village was a small boy. Not much younger than him, probably by like 2 or 3 years. But he was only like 6 at the time. So he adopted like this 3-year-old kid, and they moved into the forest and just lived there for as long as they could. Eventually, Taindir was like, we gotta get some money. Like, we just can't keep living like this. I want a happy future for you, my little brother, Din. I'm gonna grab Din's photo. His little brother, Din. This is Din, by the way. So, Din and Taindir began traveling together. And the best part about this was this party was always short, right? They only had 3 characters in their party, and so they needed a 4th. And so Taindir, little brother, became sort of the 4th DM NPC that I played a little bit, just because they were missing one person the entire time. This isn't mine. This was played by a guy who I used to know, who is so much more successful than I'll ever be in my entire life anymore. Literally, he's probably making like millions right now, just like traveling around. Fucking insane guy. Love him, but he does not talk to me anymore. Love him still. So Taindir was always very protective of Din, and Din eventually began to resent Taindir throughout their adventures, because he would see the other party members do these really dumb, sort of like ridiculous stuff that sort of looked like fun to him because they were acting like heroes, and Taindir just wouldn't let Din do it. So Din started to resent Taindir, and Taindir, who still wanted to protect Din, eventually was struck by a madness that occurred while they were fighting this entity, and sort of lost all compassion. So he kind of goes on this arc where he almost starts bullying his little brother to like do more and more dangerous, like insane shit, because he's like, this is what you wanted, right? And it got to the point where they sort of had to have an intervention and break these two up, the other 2 party members. Eventually, Taindir dies. Or at least he died for a little bit. He died as Din was there. And in his like dying moments, the madness was taken away for a moment. And this guy, who like I barely spoke to out of session, right? Because I did it over Discord at this point. Who I barely spoke to like out of session, gave me probably one of the most like heartfelt, genuine performances of his entire life, where he just laments about how sorry he was to his little brother and how much more he could have done and how much he failed as a brother, to the point where he literally had me and 2 other people in the call and like 3 more people who were spectating, all like tearing up by this fucking speech he gave. It was so just randomly heartfelt. It was insane. Taindir later got revived, and Din sort of left after that. After Taindir died, Din left and was like, I'm going to find my own path, and left. So Taindir didn't really get a reconnect with Din, but he did get resurrected later and got to do some more stuff. But Taindir is just randomly one of the most complex, interesting characters that I've ever had the pleasure of running for, and I love him so much. The best part about this party was it originally consisted of 4 people. All of them started off almost as gimmicks. Taindir's gimmick was that he was a normal guy who was thrust into a fantasy setting where he was just like a survivor who was now forced to contend with like orcs and shit. We had like Balthazar, who was a paladin of the storm goddess Caligo, and then got lost in a storm, cursed his own god, and just sort of washed ashore on the river drunk, and decided to join the party because there was nothing better to do. Kai, the Radiant, who was just a doll, a magical doll who had a stand was the joke. And then there's one more named Gwyn, who was this just elf who was just told to fuck off by his family because he was into too much dark magic shit, that they're like, we can't keep you around, dog, fucking leave. And so he like was like an edgy teen. All four of them were these like just kind of gag characters, but for whatever reason, this like 2-year campaign that I ran with these people, these characters became some of the most intense, well-studied, like acted out characters I had ever like ran for in my probably entire life. They like had such a strange dynamic where they could bounce off of each other, and just they resonated so well, this group. Gwyn had to leave due to extenuating circumstances involving his girlfriend, and because of that he had to leave, and so we were just kind of left with these three, and these three just had such a good chemistry with each other. Oh man, I could gush on and on about the Unmade. That was their group name. They're called the Unmade. I could gush on and on about the Unmade group, because this group is just pure fucking Kino in terms of like D&D experience. Fortunately, I've been able to run. So in my like 6 years of running, 4 of it has been primarily over Discord, because I started moving around a lot and I couldn't necessarily get in contact with all the people who I played with before, and so I started running it over Discord. I at one point had my own private server where I had like 25 plus players who I would run for, and every week or every day of the week I would be running a different campaign. I have had the pleasure of running a lot of campaigns for these people, and I have had a lot of really good chemistry of campaigns. Another group that had amazing chemistry, and I mean just like fucking insane amounts of chemistry, were actually someone who I talked about before. Let me pull them aside. These 4. If you don't know who these are, good. So I talked about just Lars before, but he actually had a group. These all people met up in prison, and they're each just like had their lives stolen from them. Was like the main idea of the campaign, was like, your life's been stolen from you. You got sent to jail unfairly. What are you gonna do? Now, before, the idea was like, oh, you know, we're gonna get revenge. It's gonna be a revenge arc. But eventually, all of these people began finding solace in some other aspect or some other thing to be doing. These two learned how to smith giant's tools and use like words of creation to create powerful metals. Just Laris became like fell in love with martial arts and fighting, but not in like a bloodthirsty sense like he was before. Like this like genuine like appreciation for the martial arts, sort of Baki-esque. And Arvin, who was sort of like this reject of his family, began being like, the joy of making other people happy with his gifts. This group of people just eventually began to like find like normal things that like made them better, and they all helped each other adjust back into society after their campaign was finished. This group was another long-lasting one. Fucking amazing. Just a fantastic group that was just so fun to run with, because they knew how to, like, on a dime, switch to being the funniest people on the planet, making bits about everything, to seriously contemplating, like, the ramifications of their actions in a campaign, or, like, seriously talking about, like, a character's ideals. It was... this group is fantastic. It was great. It's awesome. It's fantastic. I oversell myself a little bit when I say that I ran all those campaigns, because I did run all those campaigns and they all did exist in the world at the same time, and there were even like crossovers. Like there was literally like an Unmade Regulus Door crossover at some point. Like these characters did like run into each other and they could interact. Like they were all happening at the exact same time. I cheated a little bit here and there, or I kind of like fudged with the timeline a little bit to make things make more sense. But like I did have 7 campaigns running at the exact same time, which were all building towards one plot. And that was real. That happened. I did that, which I'm very proud of doing. I was very happy with myself that I was able to conclude this like world arc, right? Not only an arc for like a campaign, right? Or not necessarily an arc as in just like a 4-session thing. Like this was like an arc that several campaigns went over. An arc for the world that like fundamentally changed things. The fact that I was able to pull that off, but not only that, the fact that I was able to find people who were as invested in having like a serious experience with D&D, who genuinely wanted to put something into it and just like explore this world that they've been given, was such once in a lifetime thing. I'm frankly so fucking genuinely, like, in my heart, grateful for all the people I've met through playing D&D. Like I said, this is very like D&D is such a big thing for me because I've just been able to find it. How do you write that? So I can talk about this a little bit. I don't want to give away too much since there are still some ramifications that need to be explored, and that's kind of what this quote-unquote arc for the world is right now. But there was a god in my world named Decadence. Decadence was the god of chaos, the half-brother of the god of order, Regulus. Regulus and Decadence are the like 2 main heads, right? They are the forces of creation and destruction that loop in this world. For a long time, Regulus had suppressed Decadence for too long, and the world had become stagnant. And as the world became stagnant, Decadence decided, I need to just completely rend this off the face of the earth. BlazBlue, before I even knew what BlazBlue was. And so Decadence would infect monsters, inspire madness in people, would just destroy places that he saw unfit. But he wasn't like a wanton god of destruction who would just like rip people in half, you know, like he was this like malicious, slow, plotting person who was like slowly bringing down empires and building this unbeatable scenario and would like test the heroes and like lead them astray. Like it was a very like misleading, like crafty destruction. And so a lot of the campaigns were, I said, what could Decadence be doing in this location that I want to run a campaign? And so I would sort of create a situation that Decadence was messing with, and they would explore that. And so all of these campaigns eventually began sort of twisting together, converging on the point that they needed to confront Decadence. And so, over the course of a week, I ran 6 fights with the 6 aspects of Decadence that all accumulated into like one massive fight with over 20, like I think it was at the end, was it 36 total characters in like one fight. It wasn't like all one fight. It was, I broke it up into parties of 6 who all fought like one aspect because running 36 players in one encounter is just actual hell. And so I broke it up into like 6, but it was this 36 player battle against 6 different like bosses of Decadence who would just fight and contend with each other. And it was so much fun. I remember that week people like reviewing character sheets, practicing monologues that they wanted to say to this person, as well as they were like not bullying, like wholesome bullying each other. Be like, if you fuck this up, if you lose your fight, I'm gonna find you, or just like stuff like that, right? Where they were just like getting each other ready. They were like doing research and shit from like in-world stuff. It was some of the most fun I've had, like planning like this major event for people. It was so cool, especially because you got to see a lot of rare interactions between characters. Because this group right over here, Regulus Door, they didn't really interact much. They were kind of always on the run, sort of doing whatever they were doing, and would just explore the world almost. So they never got to really interact with people. And so this group of people who were very established sort of by the end as they made their way to Decadence, this like group of like 15 characters, or 15 players I should say, because they had some characters overlap. who had grown very close and sort of had these a lot of inter-party dynamics going on, had Regulus door shoved directly in the center, and like no one knew what to do with them because they were just such weird, unique characters, and they were just genuinely like, why the fuck is there a blood-eating dinosaur with a goat man who can create like mechanized arsenals? Like, what? Who are you people? And they're like, we saved your ass. Anyways, let's go kill God. It was awesome. I love it. But yeah, so that's sort of my experience with D&D. And just a bit to show of what you guys can expect, hopefully a little bit, on Monday when I start running a campaign with some big names. I don't know if people were here before, but I'll talk about who is playing again. We got some interesting people, right? We got Salty Boy, extraordinaire, recently rebranding himself a little bit, posting banger skits, banger just IRL content. Love him. His most recent content's been so good. Chris Bunchnumbers, my commentator for Witch Wars, is joining us. He's kind of just chill with it. We got Rickon is here, dog. We got Mr. Robo Kai, Jacko, evil player himself. We got him in this bitch. And we also got Shane Velshane, which is one of the people who I do the Fate Grand Order dub with on Wednesdays on Red Muffler Man's Twitch channel. And he's very cool, and we've had the ability to talk a few times. I'm very excited to see what these people bring sort of to this world character-wise, as well as sort of what I'm able to give them in terms of experience with Dungeons & Dragons. So, with all of that, that's kind of the big announcement. Big announcement, hopefully a very consistent stream on Mondays is going to be coming out, and we're going to see how that works. Woo! I love talking about my lore. It's so good. I love talking about my lore, and I will do it for fucking ever. I will never stop talking about my lore. It's good. With all of that, though, being said, as I am a little sick, I am going to call it there. Thank you all for watching, having fun, sticking around, watching me gush, whatnot. Look forward to Witch Wars this Saturday. There will be more announcement about it a little bit later. And look out for Monday for Session 0, where we'll be building characters. I'll be talking about the world a little bit more, giving them the context of what they need to know, and we'll be building characters and stuff a little bit, as well as discussing what plot they're going to be going with. With all of that, I will bid you all adieu. Goodbye.